you see the people at the casino, and there's a lot of desperation there. And we just got to chatting, and she just kept pulling hundreds of dollars out of her wallet. And she's like, "Yeah, I just started a business, and then I took out a loan and lost the money gambling here, and then I took out another one." And in my head, I'm like, "Holy cow! How does somebody get to that point? Like, just stop." And fast forward like 3 years later, I'm in the same boat.
Do you ever find yourself leaning on social media, alcohol, or other habits to numb yourself out? In this episode, I chat with Joe Cameron, a recovering sports betting addict turned educator, about how everyday addiction gets normalised and what actually helps you change. We cover how to spot the cycle, have an honest conversation about where you're actually at, and set simple guardrails that you can start using today. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, nickbracks, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew, so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss how everyday addiction gets normalised. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening. Joe, great to have you on the podcast, mate. Thank you for making the time.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate you having me.
You too. Before we get into it, could you give a bit of a background on yourself and essentially just how you came to be doing what you're doing today?
It's a great question. So I'm 33, living in Chicago. Do have a 2.5-year-old, and she pretty much takes up all of my time at this point. But I really got into the social media game on a whim, frankly. So I had dealt with some gambling issues in my earlier years, and it got to a point where it was completely out of hand, and ended up going into treatment. And found out that I also was dealing with depression, which I had no idea. For me, and again, more background, I was a college athlete, so I guess I should say American football when chatting with you on that one. But it was kind of the idea of, you think about depression, it's like you're bedridden, you sleep all the time, and so on and so forth. But there's really a lot of different or it's a different spectrum, I should say. So that wasn't my issue. And because of my athletic background and I was running a business, it was like, well, I have bills to pay. I have obligations. So just push through it. And I ended up losing my appetite, losing a ton of weight. And I was self-medicating with gambling without even knowing it because I had no idea about depression. So what ended up happening is I went to what's called inpatient treatment for 30 days, just about, and then did intense therapy for another 4 months or so. And I actually still go. And what I realized is, from a gambling perspective, a lot of healthcare providers still treat it as almost like a throw-in type of thing, right? They treat it like it's an alcohol or substance issue. While similar, they're still wildly different. And I also figured out that very few people are open about this stuff. And statistically, especially in the States where it's becoming more legalized and more normalized and frankly glamorized. I mean, if you go watch any TV channel, you're going to see a gambling commercial. You drive on the highway, there's billboards, like you can't escape it. And so it's a growing problem. And I know in Australia, where it's been a little bit or legal for a little bit longer, it's been an issue there. In the UK or Europe, frankly, I don't know how all the countries work out there, but it's been a problem there. So the US is probably a couple years behind everybody else, and the healthcare system is not ready for it. There's no federal funding for it. The states are just starting to come around. And so that prompted me to just start sharing my story. I am like anti social media in general, in the sense of I never liked posting about it. I never like I was the guy that would just scroll. Like I didn't like anything. It's just boredom, frankly. And I
Mm.
started sharing and kind of built a following and started to realize like, wow, there's a lot of people reaching out and sending messages like, hey, I've been struggling with this for a while. Like, thank you for sharing. And it's kind of become a new passion for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, mate. And I think there's so much in that, what you're talking about there, and you really can help so many people by having these conversations, by sharing your story, talking about it, because people want to learn. You know, we learn from people who have actually been through it, and it's something that's probably going to be hard for someone to relate to unless they hear that. So we need more people like you coming out and talking about it. And I think it sounds like, you know, it's a form of addiction that comes from, you know, the place of having a mental health issue, and it can come in so many different areas, whether it's alcohol abuse, drug abuse, overworking, you know, gambling, whatever it is. So being able to understand that so we can know how to address these kind of behaviors, I think is so important.
Right.
It's
I'm
such
with
an
you on
important
that.
thing.
It's
Yeah.
an interesting piece because, you know, again, not that all addictions like fall in the same book, right? They're just different chapters. And with gambling specifically, um, it is more isolating than any other addiction, in my opinion, because you can hide it way easier. Like if you're struggling
Mm,
with
mm.
alcohol, you're gonna know if somebody's been drinking for the most part, at least, or if you're high or whatever. But for me, I was losing my rent money while on a date and or with family at on a holiday, and you'd have no idea that I just lost like every penny that I had.
Wow. So, yeah, it's
It's
crazy. I
insane.
mean, and then there's the financial stress and the probably the shame that comes with it. And
Oh, oh yes.
so, I mean, on that, so many things I want to ask you. How do you, when that was happening, like when you lose all of, you go down to zero, what do you do? How do you then recoup the money and pay rent and whatever else?
I mean, you'll find a way, right? Like desperate people in desperate situations, you're going to do what you need to do. And for me, that was lying to people to borrow money, um, and taking out payday loans, which again, I don't know how the banking systems work in different countries, but these payday loans are like 1,000% interest. It is like
Wow.
insane. So I'd have, you know, three or four of those. I had, with my business, a business line of credit that I was using for that. And it's funny, like, maybe funny is not the right word, but I remember a long time ago, I was probably 23 and I'd gone to a casino, which I never had an issue with casinos, only sports betting. But at that time, it wasn't legal at least in Illinois. But I was playing blackjack, and there's this lady that, you know, you see the people at the casino, and there's a lot of desperation there. And we just got to chatting, and she just kept pulling hundreds of dollars out of her wallet. And she's like, yeah, you know, I just started a business, and then I took out a loan and lost the money gambling here, and then I took out another one. And in my head, I'm like, holy cow, how does somebody get to that point? Like, just stop. And
Hmm.
fast forward like 3 years later, I'm in the same boat. And it's just, again, you'd have no idea. It's just a wild, wild thing.
A good reminder that, yeah, it can happen to anyone, because I guess until we're in that situation, it's hard to, we always have that thought, oh, no, it won't happen to me. You know, I'll
Yeah.
never be that person. And you can't really have that thought until you are in that situation. So we need the education so we know how to be preventative and make sure we are doing the right thing so we don't fall into down that path.
Oh, 100%. I mean, again, it could be anything. It could be social media, like addicted to your phone and I mean, it's just wild the hold that it takes on you. And you touched on the shame aspect. I mean, that was probably the biggest component of all of it. And I think that triggered the depression, or at least the severity of it. Like, I have no idea which came first, whether it was the addiction or depression. But what I do know is that gambling made it 100 times worse, if not more. Now, when I was
Yeah.
actually following a bet, like, oh yeah, and, it's the same as being high, right? Like, I'm loving
Mm.
life, I'm comfortable, I'm loving the action and the little rush and dopamine hit that I'm getting from it. And then you lose and you feel terrible about yourself, and you say, like, you at that point, I guess in the peak of it, like, I was dealing with suicide ideation, which I didn't know was a thing, and it when you're uneducated on mental health in general and these things are happening to you, you just create excuses. Like, remember being like, having a plan, frankly, and I was just chalking it up to having a bad day at work. Like, no different
Mm.
than,
Mm.
your boss coming down on you and you're like, oh my God, somebody just shoot me. You think of it as
Yeah.
like sarcasm or just venting, but in reality, you're dealing with a progressive illness and progressive thoughts. And that's where it gets really dicey, to put it lightly.
No, absolutely, mate. I can only imagine. And what would you say the compulsion to do it feels like? Like how much of a hold did that have on you? Can you describe the feeling of that?
I mean, it's a perennial itch that you just can't scratch. I mean, there's plenty of times where I would go a day or two without betting, or say, a lot of my friends bet, right? So it's hard to avoid from that standpoint. And I would just sit there and
Mm.
be bored, right? I'm former college athlete. Sports were my entire life. I grew up around it. So naturally, I was going to watch sports, and you start watching, and now you're watching a broadcast, and they're talking about the live spread. So it's like, okay, now I can't watch sports anymore. What else can I do? And then all of a sudden the itch comes, and you find a way to get money. And again, I've used all the safeguards. Like, you can opt out, um, but there's always another casino or sports book or online casino, crypto casino. Like, it's endless. You can't possibly
Yeah.
opt out or self exclude from all of them. So you just create a new account, and then
Mm.
all of a sudden it's 2 days later, and you're like, where'd my paycheck go?
Mm. You just get
The
stuck in that
safeguards are
cycle.
not exactly. There's no way to completely safeguard, and it's just this giant secret. Nobody knew about it. Like, my buddies, and I don't know if you've ever bet on sports or anything like that, but a lot of times people will treat their bets as units. So you might, and a unit can be any number. It might be $100 or it might be $10. So if me and a buddy are betting on the same game, and we're like, hey, let's put 5 units on it, he might be only betting $50, and I might be betting 5,000. So he has no clue that I might have a problem. And it's not just about the amount of money you bet, of course, but it's just another way to hide how severe it is. It's using the word units is the same as using poker chips at a casino. It detaches you
Yeah.
from the actual value of the money.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, mate. And can you trace back to where it all started from? Was it, you know, I mean, listening to you, if I relate to my own story in a different way, sport was my life. I got injured, couldn't, I wanted to be a professional athlete, didn't know how to replace that. That was really the thing that sort of gave me the adrenaline rush and distracted me from things. And then drinking became the problem and, led to a whole lot of, bad decisions. Can you trace back sort of where this stemmed from?
I've thought a lot about that, and I dealt with the same thing. Although I knew I was never going to be a pro athlete. I'm too short and too slow, but made it pretty far in my career in terms of playing in college. But you are right. After that void, I mean, think about the biggest football stadiums in America, like University of Michigan, 110,000 or something like that.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
running out of that tunnel at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning is well worth all the blood, sweat, and tears because there is nothing like it. Even when it's, I didn't play at Michigan, so we're getting booed by everybody, but nonetheless, like,
But you
it's
had
a
that experience of playing in frone of 110,000 people?
it, exactly. Now,
Oh
I
my
mean, I
God,
stood on
that's
the
crazy.
sidelines for the most part
Yeah.
because I wasn't very good, but I joke like I don't know if you've seen the movie Rudy, but I was
I
basically
have.
Rudy.
No, I love that film.
Um,
My friend recommended it to me a while back. I loved it. But I mean that's insane. Just like our biggest stadium in Australia is 110,000, and that's where we have AFL, like our,
yep,
Australian football.
I
And
know all
this
about
site.
that. I used to bet on it, and I
Oh,
didn't
there you
even know what
go.
it was.
But the fact you've had that experience, it's crazy. 'Cause that's enormous. It would be, yeah, like you're saying, probably no bigger adrenaline rush than doing something like that. If you're feeling stuck, you're not alone. Most people don't realize how connected your mental health is to your body, from your gut to your sleep, movement, food, mindset. Getting active each day can shift how you feel, build confidence, and transform your quality of life. At Move Your Mind, we guide you through this process step by step. If this resonates and you want to learn more, simply go to my Instagram at nickbracks and click the link on the bio to fill out an application, and I'll send you over more information about the program. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. If you find the show helpful, please share it with a friend and follow me on Instagram. It really helps.
Nothing. Yeah, I mean, like skydiving, you'd probably get it, right? But I'm not doing that. So
Yeah.
then you're done all of a sudden, and it happens, when you're 18 in college, you're like, this is
Mm.
never ending, right? I'm going to be living this life forever. And then it all ends. And then you get into the real world of, dang, I got to work from 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And, you have obligations and bills, and life just comes at you pretty quickly, and it becomes very difficult. So there definitely
Yeah.
isn't one specific incident. And I was the guy that had a really great childhood, close knit family, the whole nine. And it just all started with a couple of small bets and probably got out of hand very, very quickly. To the point of I actually recognize, like, I kind of overextended myself here. But you think
Yeah.
it's only going to happen once or twice, right? And then all of a sudden you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And again, like, I was making good money too. And that was the
Mm.
tricky part, is the lies you tell yourself. So with my role, it was effectively 100% commission job. And there would be $10,000 paychecks, there would be $20 paychecks, or there would be no paychecks sometimes. And so I would tell myself that I don't have any money right now because I had a bad month at work. But the reality is, I got paid on the 15th and I lost my paycheck by the 16th.
Yeah. Wow.
But I
So you
wouldn't,
get you
I
you
would never,
gaslight yourself.
yeah, exactly. Right. So I would, and, you tell yourself a lie so many times, you start to believe it. And
Mm.
it's absurd. Like, again, what 28-year-old that's making good money is broke, but they're believing that it's because of work and the variability of income and paychecks. But um I'm glad that I'm far past that point. So we're just in
Mm.
a rebuilding phase, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point that you're saying there, and especially for men to hear, because my area has sort of been mental health that I've been working in for 15 years, and I think we don't like to admit that we've got a problem. Like no one does, but especially men, and we don't like to get help or admit we need help. And I know for myself and the work that I do, what I've seen is it's almost impossible to make these changes if you don't get support and help in some way, shape, or form. I know I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I didn't have the support and help that I've had. Would you say your experience has been similar to that?
100%. I mean, I'm also stubborn too, right? And I'm competitive. So if somebody was to tell me that I had a problem, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, you don't know. I got it figured out. It's all handled.
Yeah.
And it actually had happened at one point where I had borrowed money from a friend. He didn't know what I was using it for, but he pretty much put two and two together. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And I told them the same lie that I told myself. Like, it's just a cash flow issue. It's nothing more, nothing less. And had I not had the support of family, I don't know that I'd be here right now, frankly. And I say that like with 100% seriousness, because we do try and do things ourselves. We don't want to admit we have a problem. We don't want to get help, because whether it's the stigma of working with a therapist or admitting you have a mental health issue or whatever, we naturally think that we can just figure it out. And if you treat mental health like any other injury, like I'm sure you've had some major injuries, surgeries, whatever, you need some rest. Let it heal up. And if you don't stop, it's only going to get worse. But again, you have the competition aspect of it, that you just push through, push through, push through. And it's literally the worst possible thing you can do.
Yeah, 100%. The first step's just admitting that we don't have the answers. We need help. Just take that step first. What would you say to anyone listening right now that maybe they do have a problem with addiction or a mental health issue, or they're feeling stuck? Someone in that position that just knows that they're stuck, they're going around in circles, but doesn't know what to do. What would you say as a first step what would you say would be a first step they could take?
It's a great question. I would probably say tell somebody, because my guess is most people have no idea that you're struggling with something. And when I say tell somebody, like being 100% honest with them, because I remember telling people like, yeah, I think something's going on. And in my head, I was being completely vulnerable with them and thought they might have like the silver bullet for me to fix everything, but they don't know what I'm talking about. They're like, okay, dude, you're just stressed out. Like, that happens. So I think honesty is key, and communicating that, hey, I think I actually have an issue. Because really, my biggest fear from coming clean about all of that is what people would think. And, will they cut me off, or am I this pariah that's a drain on society? And, all the negative things I'd tell myself if somebody found out. And here I am a year later, like posting, my deepest secrets on social media. And it's frankly, it is embarrassing to some extent, but when you start to realize like, this isn't about me, it's about helping other people, I don't care anymore.
Exactly. And anyone that does judge you for it, or if there are people in your circle that, did judge you or cut you off for doing that kind of thing, then they're not people that you should have in your life in the first place. So it's sort of
Exactly.
it can become a natural filter, and in the opposite way, connect you with people that are going to be amazing to be connected with. So it's sort of, no, in my view, it's a win-win. You can't really lose, and it helps you as well. It's a meaningful thing to do. So
For sure.
yeah, I think it's
And
an
it's
important thing.
absolutely, and being public with it, frankly, has probably been the number one thing that has helped me with recovery. Like, it's a natural accountability factor. Not that I can't
Exactly.
have a slip up or go online. Sorry, hopefully you're not catching the background noise on that.
That's all good.
Um, it's it's okay to have slip ups. It's not the end of the world, but I have a natural accountability piece with it. So I've loved that aspect. And the other thing too, I would share, for somebody looking to get help, typically you're gonna people are gonna tell you to go to Gamblers Anonymous or some type of recovery 12-step program, whether it's alcohol, substance abuse, etc. That's not the end all be all. And by no means am I anti any of that. I still go every week. It's a great starting point to just like build some support, build some community around it. But there's so many different routes you can go with recovery and getting help. GA or any 12-step program, there's smart recovery, um, general, like regular therapy. Like, there's a million routes to go about it. And I think everybody tends to put this all in a box of you have to go to GA or
Mm.
AA and whatnot. And it's not cookie cutter, it's different for everybody.
It's a really important point. It's the same with mental health. There's no one size fits all, and seeing a therapist is really important. Doing a therapist as the only measure is probably not enough. There's a whole lot of other holistic things you need to probably do as well, but there's no right or
Right.
wrong, and we do need to understand that. And I think that's the difficult thing because it can be hard to teach people how to have that critical thinking to work it out for themselves. So it's almost needing to, which I think this is the next question I want to ask you, about your course, being able to educate people through that about how to understand, the different options and how they go about it. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing in terms of, your how you're educating other people about this? If you're feeling stuck, we get it. Most people don't realize how connected your mind is to your body. Sleep, gut health, food, exercise, it all matters. At Move Your Mind, we help you lose weight, build confidence, and reset your mindset in just 100 days. There's no extremes and no experience needed. We guide you to build simple habits and routines that will last for a lifetime. If this resonates and you want to learn more, simply go to my Instagram at nickbracks and click the link on the bio to fill out an application, and I'll send you over more information about the program. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. If you have any suggestions for new topics or guests, please send me a DM on Instagram at nickbracks.
Yeah, for sure. I think number one is just sharing my story, right? If you can find some type of commonality, there's naturally going to be a pull towards, let's help this person out. And again, one thing that I thought about was in inpatient treatment and some of the work that I've done. We had a speaker come in, and he basically lived the life of Adam Sandler and Uncut Gems, except he didn't. Well, I don't want to give a spoiler at the end of the movie, but um, and I remember sitting there thinking, like, dang, this guy is way worse off than I was. And in reality, over time, it was like we lived the exact same life. I just wasn't in the trunk of anyone's cars because it was legal at that point. I'm not betting with, mafia guys. So finding commonality is really the big proponent of all of this. And then again, what I realized and had touched on earlier, from a healthcare side, most therapists don't know about what modern gambling is. They still think it's
Mm,
all about
mm.
going to the casino, sitting in front of a slot machine and whatnot. They don't know that you can bet everything from your phone. It's 24/7. Again, I lived in the States. I was betting on AFL. I don't remember any of the teams anymore. It was very fun to watch because I had no idea what was going on. I would bet on rugby. And my literal thought process on that is my sister played rugby in college. I don't know the rules, but I told myself I did because I watched her play in college when I was 5. You know,
Yeah, right.
you can bet on literally anything. I was like, whatever you name it, I've probably bet on it. I mean, Turkish women's basketball. Like, why?
Wow.
Number one, why can anybody bet on that in general? But why was I doing it? The second I woke up, I started betting until I went to bed. And then I put bets
Wow.
in like overnight where I would end up waking up at 3 a.m., check my phone to see what time it was, and then immediately check my betting app to see if the bet had won.
Oh my God.
So that is all to say that if you're going to see a therapist for gambling, they need to know what it looks like today, right? Again, in baseball,
Yeah.
for example, you can bet on whether or not the next pitch will be a ball or a strike. And that is the equivalent of pulling a slot machine.
Yeah.
So in a baseball game, there's probably what, 300 pitches maybe between the two teams. That's 300 possible bets you could make that last seconds. It's
That's
crazy.
crazy. That's madness that you can do that.
For
How
sure.
how how early do you have to have that bet in before they throw the ball?
That's a good question. I never really did any of that. I
It's
mean,
crazy though.
well, think about it. There's probably 30 seconds between each pitch. So, you probably have 10 seconds to knock it out and hope that your service is good enough in the stadium. But this is what it comes down to
Fucking
is
hell.
it's insane, right? Now, here's the thing, right? I go to a therapist and say, hey, I'm really struggling. We have March Madness coming up, and that's like the biggest, sporting event in the States, college basketball wise. And when the therapist sits across from you and says, "What is that?" How are they supposed to help you? And it's nothing against them. Like maybe they're not into sports and that's fine, but they need to understand that. Or
Yeah.
and this is an extreme example, but I joke like, I could go to a therapist and say I lost $20,000 on the Super Bowl, and their response is going to be, "Oh my God, I love Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift."
Yeah. Yeah.
But what they need to know is that you could actually bet on the Super Bowl, or on the broadcast, and there was bets that were how many times would Taylor Swift be shown on TV, right? So like
Gee.
they need to know
Yeah.
that that is out there.
Yeah.
And then you take the family side of things, and I remember saying this to my mom when I was trying to explain like this is the pull that it has. So I said to her, if I tell you this, let me know if you know at all what it means. So the example, and again, this is an extreme example, but I had an 8-leg parlay to win $20,000. It lost on the last leg by the hook on a buzzer beater. I don't know. I mean, you're a sports guy. Do you have any idea what that means?
No.
Right.
No idea.
So, so it's like in simple terms, if I said that to anybody who gambles, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But again, if I'm trying to get help and they have no idea, or family doesn't know what it means and they're just telling you like, why can't you just stop?
Yeah.
Well, the culture itself is so strong. So ultimately, what I ended up doing from that is creating a course. So I built two of them. One is designed more so for therapists and psychiatrists, healthcare providers, really just to educate them on what modern gambling is, provide some type of clinical treatment suggestions like, here's what you should be asking. For example, most people will say, okay, do you gamble? Yes. But the real question is, how many different accounts do you have? Are you using every sports betting app? Are you doing it online? How many times a day do you bet is not the question to ask. The real question should be, when you wake up, do you start gambling? Or are you gambling to feel better? Things along those lines. And it's done really well. It's gotten a lot of great feedback. The goal is to eventually get it accredited so that they can use it for continuing education credits. And I think that's really where it'll take off. And then on the other side of it, I built one for affected families where, again, they don't know what's going on. They don't understand the pull. Again, my family is a huge sports family. They don't quite get what gambling has done and how strong it is. So that is, again, similar to educating them on, hey, here's what modern gambling is, but also here's what you need to know about what your loved one is going to tell you and what it means. Because, for example, the way that we move money around, I can pull out a payday loan because it doesn't show up on a credit report. So if you think your stopgap for monitoring your loved one is locking their credit, I can get around it. Again, addiction will find a way.
Yeah.
Or having my employer split my paycheck up. Maybe they take a couple $100s off the top and put it into a different account that nobody knows about. I can move money and hide money like crazy if I needed to. Again, I don't want to do that, but they need to know, here's the things to look out for. So not only do you have to monitor their credit, but also get control of their finances, or at least get access to their bank accounts. That was another huge thing for me. That was probably, outside of getting like actual treatment, that was probably the number one thing that helped me stop, because I knew there was no way for me to hide it. If I have, or my family has access to my bank accounts and they have notifications that on any transaction over $1, I can't hide that.
If you feel like you've lost control of your health, physically or mentally, Move Your Mind is here to help you. We guide you through weight loss, lifestyle change, and resetting your mindset without any extremes or overwhelm. If this resonates and you want to learn more, simply go to my Instagram at nickbracks and click the link on the bio to fill out an application, and I'll send you over more information about the program. Thank you for supporting the podcast. If you find this show helpful, please share it with a friend and follow me on Instagram. It really helps.
So there are like little, what I would call Jedi mind tricks that need to happen for somebody. And over time, you probably don't need all of those. But again, if you want to help your loved one stop gambling, you need to know every in and out on how they will hide it, how they will lie. And like I said earlier, how they'll sit at dinner with all of you, literally losing money that they don't have, can't afford to lose. And they'll sit there with a smile on their face and laugh.
Yeah. Well, I think that's super important what you're doing, and makes so much sense why that's needed from what you've explained there. And how is anyone going to understand this unless they've been through it, or unless they've spoken to someone who's been through it and can understand that? So I think it's incredibly important, mate. So yeah, thank you for sharing all of this. Final question, actually. How much would you say on average you lost compared to won through the time gambling, just out of interest?
That's a great question, and it's interesting you share that with me, because on the apps you can look up your overall win and loss. Now I knew I was down pretty bad, and as a result, I wouldn't look at it because that would be the reality check for me of, man, I know I have a problem. But one thing that's really important is that it's not always about how much you've lost, right? It's about the time that you've lost, the amount of time you spend thinking about it. Like, do you need it to get through your day? So if I lose $10,000 over my gambling career, that doesn't necessarily mean I have a problem. If I'm making $1 million a year, which I wasn't, but again, I just want to reiterate, because a lot of people will
That's a
tend to
good point.
think if I'm not losing all of my money, then it's not a problem. And that's just not the case. But to answer your question, overall losses were in the seven figures. And again, I could not afford to have done that. I wasn't making that good of money to be able to lose all of that. It was funded through a lot of things like loans, et cetera, et cetera. So, and the other part behind that too, and sorry, I'm getting a little long-winded here, but hopefully you can see the passion coming out about it. It is ultimately that it's not so much of, and this goes on to the social media aspect, because a lot of people are just, frankly, I don't know if I can swear on here, but assholes on it. And really trying to egg you to continue betting like you're only one win away. And that's how I felt. I was only one win away from clearing up my problems. But the thing is, if I climb out of that hole, I know I'm not going to stop. And that's when you know it's actually an issue.
Yeah, I think that's really well put, that point, because that could easily get mixed up, like you're saying, where if someone can afford to do it, they're making, it's not causing financial problems, etc. Being able to look at, okay, what are the signs I need to look for to understand whether it is or isn't a problem. So, yeah, love all the stuff you're talking about, mate. What if our listeners want to learn more about you, where can we send them?
Personal pages, Winning Without Wagers on Instagram and TikTok. Actually, I had to do different ones. So Instagram is winning.without.wagers. On TikTok, it is the same thing, but underscores instead of periods. And then for the gambling education course, we'll call it, for therapists, that is gambling therapy tools on TikTok. And then I'll send this in an email if you want to throw it in the description of the video when it gets edited, the link to the course.
Yep, exactly. We'll put all of the links in the show notes. So anyone listening, make sure to check them all out. We finish every episode with 5 closing questions. These can be sort of quick answers, whatever comes to mind for you. The first one is, what's your best childhood memory that comes to mind?
Oh, man. This one's an easy one, actually. So my brother played football in college as well. and they played in the Rose Bowl out in California. So the nickname for this is the granddaddy of them all. So it's like one of the most beautiful things you'll ever go to. And I always joke, I've never been to Disney World because I got to go to the Rose Bowl. And that was like the coolest experience, being, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old and staying in Beverly Hills and the pageantry. And it was just the coolest thing ever.
I love it. Love it. What would you say is the biggest burden on mental health in society at the moment?
Ooh. Probably that nobody wants to talk about it. It's getting a lot better, I'll say that, but especially on the male side of things, it's you're not weak if you have a mental health issue. It's no different than spraining your ankle. People get hurt.
Yeah. What's your personal definition of happiness?
Ooh. I would say living life the way that you want to,
Yeah,
and
love
not
that.
worrying about whatever people think.
Mm. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Don't suffer in silence.
That's a powerful one. Well, final one, what are you most proud of?
Oh man, there's so many things, but most, um, I'll give you two. On the personal side, I'm very proud of how I've been able to come out of what I've gone through. And that's not just for myself. Like, that's a shout out to family and all the help and support and all of that. I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that without them. And then I am incredibly proud of my 2.5-year old. No matter what, she can't do anything
Mm.
wrong. She's got me wrapped around her finger.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for making the time to share all of this. And I think it really is so important what you're doing. So keep doing it. And I think you're definitely going to make a difference in so many people's lives. So appreciate you making the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well. Thanks for sharing your platform, and good luck with everything that you have going on moving forward.
Thank you, Joe Cameron, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or just send me a DM. Your feedback's always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.